You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Adler and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is the Waystation, your source for Star Wars news and rumors. Today is, what is today? September 17th, 2023. And, you know, we haven't been doing this show as regularly as we have been. Most of that is because there's been a lot to discuss around the Ahsoka series and really getting into that with some of the Patreon shows. So we've kind of racked up a couple of the more recent stories. One, which is actually pretty large, if you've seen the little title cards that Jonesy's thrown out there recently. And that's the Lando series, which is now maybe a movie. We're going to get into that here in just a little bit. And tonight I've got a special guest with me. I'm going to bring on Ed Garcia. Ed is a DJ over at Power 97 over in, Edmonton? Winnipeg. Okay. You know, I said, before we came on the air, I said, I'm like the stereotypical American. Like, I didn't even know where the hell that city was. But Ed, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for being a guest tonight. How are you doing tonight?
No problem. Thank you for having me, man. This is a pleasure. Glad to be here.
Good. Great. I wanted, before we get into the news, I kind of want to know what your story is. Like with Fred, you know, we had Fred on a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Great guy. Love and Fred. I've been working with him doing some voiceover work for his Mud audio drama thing. So I kind of already knew more or less. We'd already discussed Star Wars and I knew where he was coming from, but I don't know that much about you. And so I thought maybe you could just kind of give us your spiel. Like, where did the fandom start with you? Like, what keeps you interested in Star Wars every single day?
Oh man, where does it start? I mean, like, I almost feel like I was born into it, right? Like with my family. Like, my uncle is a huge comic book nerd, and he loves all of the stuff with superheroes and Star Wars and everything. And I got like a lot of older cousins. I think my oldest cousin is about your age, and between there's like 4 or 5 other boys who just. I got all the hand-me-downs, right? I think I was sleeping in Return of the Jedi bed sheets before I even knew what the hell Star Wars was. And then, you know, you turn 5 or 6 and you start learning like what all these things are. And I start watching, I remember, I think it was like the Ewoks cartoon from the 80s and the Droids cartoon. I think that was like my real first initial knowing what Star Wars was. Then you have to finally start watching the shows. And the toys too, right? Like I think the Star Wars toys back in the day were like the same size as G.I. Joes. And G.I. Joes, when I was a kid, was like, that was the thing. But the Star Wars toys could fit in all the G.I. Joe's cars and stuff. So they could work together.
Yeah. Mix and match. It was like the ultimate team up of sorts between action figures.
Yeah. And what keeps me interested? I don't know. I'm a glutton for punishment, I think. Me and Fred were messaging the other day, actually, and we were talking about, he said something about like, you know, even like the worst Star Wars movies or shows or whatever, has at least something for somebody, right? Like there's always like some sort of redeeming quality. And I was like, yeah, you know, there is, right? And even the stuff that you don't like, say the Ahsoka show, for example. I've liked it so far. I thought the first couple episodes that's fine. I thought I was like going through and it's like, okay, it's just another show. Then the last 2 episodes are like, holy crap. This is, we leveled up somewhere, guys. This is, and sometimes if you just stick around a little bit, you find like some great stuff that you're like, okay, I can sink my teeth into this. This is fantastic.
Yeah. No, and you're kind of speaking to kind of almost a DNA of Dave Filoni in a lot of ways. It's part of his blueprint, right? He brings out a show, you get some characters, you might get a storyline. They're like, yeah, okay, I can maybe get used to this or maybe not get used to this. And then he hits you, right, with some deep emotional stuff. And then you get hooked. And the next thing you know, you're buying bed sheets or you're wearing t-shirts with their characters on them. So it's you're not far off there. Jonesy's in the chat tonight. He's already brought up anything was better than Caravan of Courage or Droids. So he's referring to the TV made movies. And so don't listen to him, man. The Droids cartoon. Okay, no, maybe the Droids cartoon is pretty bad, but the Ewoks cartoon was pretty good. Not to mention they both had cereals. So I mean, like, that was, kind of the thing.
It's one of those, it's just like a kind of gateway, right, for little kids to just get into the Star Wars universe, and we'll figure out the stuff later. We'll get you good stuff later. Just for now, here's a cartoon and there's lasers and robots. Lasers. And love it.
Lots of colors, funny stuff, gags, farts, whatever it takes. We'll get you into the fandom. So
I can't imagine like watching Droids now. I think I just hate it so much. I'd never return to it. There's no way.
Well, if you said you were a glutton for punishment, so what I will offer is that Disney Plus has the entire series of droids and Ewoks out there. So when you get your free time, go ahead and enjoy it, and maybe bring a 6-pack with you and let us know how it went, because that would be very interesting as a rewatch of sorts so many years later.
Yeah, I mean, if the strike continues, we might,
Right. But that's all we'll have left at this point.
Christmas special droids, yeah, everything.
Yeah, I think you're onto something. We may have to just do kind of like a rewatch and just start, streaming episodes of our rewatch and breaking those episodes down. So, but all right, cool. No, great story. Glad that glad that those two had an influence on you, and you're here today. So, hey, before we get started, I got some news. I just want to say thank you again to all of our Patreon subscribers. If you are interested in Patreon, you can head out to cantinacast.com/Patreon. Sign up for as little as $2. There's pretty much all kinds of stuff there. To selfishly plug what we're going to do tonight, we're actually going to take Ahsoka and apply her to Joseph Campbell's A Hero's Journey. And so we'll kind of talk about all the different stages of the hero's journey and kind of play around with where we think, so which one of the stages and acts she's already ticked off. And then if we got time, I want to kind of project into the future and think, okay, based on the hero's journey, what could possibly be left for Ahsoka? So that should be a lot of fun. That'll happen here at 10 p.m. Central for all the Patreon members. I think it's at the $5 tier and above. If you got the $2 tier, you can get the audio at least. So you'll got that going for you as well. So please join us there. And of course, if you're listening to us or watching us, I should say, on YouTube, head out to cantinacast.com/YouTube. Please like, subscribe, get on the channel, be alerted. So whenever we go live, you guys are there and you never miss an episode. We would certainly appreciate all of the following there. And one last thing before we go, I want to say thank you to all of our now part of the tribe members. So Rob, Mike, Lauren, Dante, Riss Bayless, Justin, Jackson, Sharkman Dan, Daz, Isabella, Uncle Leon, Josh C, Jacob, Reader Reborn, and our Delusions of Grandeur tour, which is Rod, CJ, Alex, and Steve C. All right. Wait, I said one last thing. I do have one thing. Check out Lauren's latest videos. If you go to, where is that at? Where's my link? Jedi Novel Archive with Lauren. There it is. cantinacast.com/YouTube. She's just taken on Tales of Light and Life, which is the High Republic collection of short stories. And then she's also got the From a Certain Point of View, Return of the Jedi, with 40 plus stories that are out now. That Tome of Magic, which is back here. It's huge. It's a massive book, but she's done some really great videos on that stuff. So if you're not really into the novels and you want just kind of the high level, Cliff Notes stuff, if you want it, she does a really good job of giving you what you need to know, and maybe it'll pique your interest. Maybe you'll kind of pick those up. So please check her videos out as well. Okay, now let's get into this. I'm going to share my screen because I want to pull up the news articles that we're going to be talking about. And so let's start with the big one. So this is coming from this is about the Lando series, and this is coming from Variety Magazine. So for anybody that didn't know, this Lando series originally started off as a TV series. Oh, I didn't share me. Let me actually share my screen. It started off as a TV series, right? That's been kind of rumored for quite a long time. And then recently, just kind of out of nowhere, in the last week or two, we got wind that this is now, and let me just be clear, this is a rumor, right? So nothing official. Although it did say in this article that Lucasfilm had confirmed that it was now a TV series, or now a movie. I guess, I want to know from you, Ed, first off, what did you think of the Solo series? It's a kid's show, so, be nice. And then also, like, as far as, I think most people enjoyed, like you said, there's a lot there to love. Yeah. But I don't know. The one thing that came to mind when I saw this article is, like, are we ready for Lando? Like, does it feel like it's too soon when we're just coming off this, TV, or movies are bad, we've been putting out too many, we're going to kind of pull everything back. And now it's like, oh, surprise, we're taking one of the television series that we thought we were going to release, and now we're doing the opposite, where we're going to make this an actual movie. When you hear that, does that give you any pause? Are you excited about a Lando series? Like, how are you feeling about this kind of news?
Yeah, I'm a big Donald Glover fan, right? Like, as far as like the Solo movie, I don't know, it wasn't my favorite, but I didn't hate it either. There's a lot of redeeming qualities, and he's definitely one of the most redeeming qualities of that movie. He was great as Lando. And you think of like how many times like the internet has fan casted a character, right? They're like, oh, this person would be perfect for it, and then we get it, and it's like, oh, actually wasn't that good. Like, you think like Jim from The Office when he was Mr. Fantastic in Doctor Strange, it was like, oh, that was just kind of okay. Or like when the Rock was Black Adam, it was just like, oh, that was kind of okay. Donald Glover was fantastic as Lando Calrissian. I'm actually kind of mad at myself. I meant to like wear some scarves and capes in this appearance because I knew we were we're going to be talking about Lando, and I just
Yeah.
totally forgot on my way here.
Mm.
But yeah, he was great. To me, it's just about what story they're trying to tell, right? If they have a story that fits more for a movie, then do that. If it fits more of a TV show, then do that, right? Because I hate so much when they're like, we're going to make this a series, and we're like, actually, we just had a movie script and we just stretched it out for 6 hours and just had a
Mhm.
bunch of fillers. But if you have like an actual TV show with, I love episodic storytelling. If you have like an overarching story to connect everything, perfect. But if you're just making a movie, then just make the movie. I'd rather
Yeah.
see like the lasers and space fights on a big screen anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And you're right. Like this guy killed it. He's been so passionate about the project. If there's been any one person that's been driving for this, it's definitely him. So much that him and his brother now that kind of left this part out, but just to kind of circle back to it. This is now it was originally written by the TV series was going to be written by Justin Simeon. He's
Mhm.
the writer of Dear White People. He left and now it's the Donald and Stephen Glover, so his brother and him are now the writers behind this. I think he's an incredible talent, honestly, musically too. I actually have loved
Mhm.
everything he's done musically. It's some just crazy stuff. I loved him in what was it, Community,
Community is
right?
so good. Yeah.
He's so good.
If
Same
they could
thing
get
with
like if they could get Abed, if they could get Danny Putty to play like, like a C-3PO type droid, that'd be like just amazing. Please do
I
that.
think they should. You're 100% right. They should sneak that in there and just break away into some like bit that was done on Community, and then just kind of come back and get pull us
Yeah.
right back in. But I'd be in favor of that. But yeah, like he fits the glove. Yeah, boo, dad jokes all night, right? No, but he certainly is Lando. He did a really good job. He's super passionate. I'm with you too. Like there's some part of me that feels like should they not be focusing on like a Solo 2 before they do something like this? But you're right. I mean, it really if they got a good enough script, if they feel like there's something there worth the wait, worth putting out, I'd be in favor of it. I just wonder how the public at large is going to respond given everything that's happened here just recently in the last 2-3 years with all this movie turmoil, and even now, right? You think about it, some of the biggest movies that we were anticipating this year alone didn't do as well, and there was some pretty good stuff in there, right? Mission Impossible is one of those movies that was just ever heralded by all of the
Yeah.
critics. And yet, when you look at the box office numbers, did it do as well as it probably should have? No. Does this bode well for something like this?
Yeah, I mean, like, Tom Cruise tried to fight Barbie and he lost, so that was his fault.
Yeah.
With Solo 2, I don't do we need a Solo 2 though? I feel like at the end of Solo, we're close enough to the beginning of A New Hope that it's like, do we need to tell that, that last little bit of the story? I feel
Mm,
like the story is really Lando. Where did he go after losing the Millennium Falcon? How did he become the mayor of Cloud City? That to me is a more interesting story. To me, like even the Solo movie to begin with, the problem I always had with it is just like you're not getting the hero's journey with him, right? Han's hero's journey happened in A New Hope. He started off as a scoundrel and then became, he saw the light, he saw the hope. Whereas like in Solo, it's like, okay, we don't really have anything for you to do. Everything else around you is going to be interesting, but we're actually going to try and make you less interesting.
mm,
And to me, the Lando story is the better story. But like you said, is that going to appeal to a larger audience, a large enough audience that we're going to get a big box office return? Because Star Wars movies are not cheap. And if you want to make more of them, you have to get a box office return.
yeah. Which is a tall order these days, right?
Yeah.
So many of these movies are not getting the returns that they expected. So just to kind of get into just real quick, let's see. I wanted to talk about his little quote in here when he was actually talking about coming on and doing the product. Because originally we were hearing that he was real tight-lipped and said can't
Mhm.
really say a whole lot. He said we're talking about it. That's all I can say. And then later on, he kind of turned his tune and said that they're still talking about it. I think he said that everything's by telephone right now because of the writer's strike, so they're really
Mhm.
being hush hush about trying to
Yeah.
get something working, even though they technically probably shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Don't know if he should have said that, but either way, yeah. I mean, it's yeah, at the end of the day, am I going to go see this movie? Yeah. If this thing pulls like sucks an egg, am I going to go see this movie? Yeah, I'm going to go see it. I'll probably see it a few times, because that's what we do. I'm a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull something out of it, and it's going to give us something to talk about. So at
Yeah.
least on this show.
I think it was like Screen Rant a couple years ago. I heard them talking about like there's just this stat of movies that do well if they have a sequel, but movies that are bad that do well if they have a sequel, the sequel does not do well, even though the sequel might be better, right?
Mm,
So like I think of like the Suicide Squad. The first Suicide Squad movie wasn't great, but it did a big number, so they made the Suicide. I forget which one has the done, which one doesn't.
Yeah,
But
I
the
don't
other, the
either.
second movie was the better movie, and it just did super poorly at the box office. People were like, "Well, the first one stuck. Why am I going to see the next one?" I feel like Solo suffered from that with last. Not was it Last Jedi? No, what was the
Oh, you mean
Ryan?
right around the same time? Yeah, that was
Yeah,
around. Yeah, the
it
Ryan,
was like
Ryan
it came out.
Johnson, Last Jedi.
Yeah, Last Jedi. Sorry, Last Jedi came out what, at the Christmas, and
Yep.
then a couple months
6 months
later,
later. 6 months
Solo
later,
comes
he
out
came
in
in.
May, and
Yep.
people are still like, well, regardless of what you feel, some people like that movie, some people don't. But it became the most divisive Star Wars movie that ever existed. And 6 months later, they're like, oh, come watch this other movie, and people are like, no, I'm good.
Right. Yeah.
You know what? I'm good. Even though I thought Solo was a better movie than the other one.
Yeah. Well, and that's not. I think you're spot on in that was kind of. I don't want to call it the kiss of death, but yeah, because of the state of Star Wars union that we were in at the time, it
Mm.
didn't do Solo any favors whatsoever, right? And I think if we didn't have that, if they had given that movie some time to breathe or allow the other movie to kind of the dust to settle on that, maybe we would have had a different experience. But I think you're not far off on that either. I'm gonna go to the comments real quick. Cube Dude says, love Donald, Billy D, and Lando, but it's like Disney executives asked a Walmart greeter which action figure languishes on shelves and decided their answer would be the next movie, saying that this is not a character that, maybe a lot of people love as much as we all love him. And I can see some truth in that. Like a lot of people love, Lando Calrissian, but I think a lot of people really love Billy D. Williams.
Mhm.
And maybe that, those are kind of inseparable. Does Donald Glover have that kind of, clout and the weight to bring the masses? I don't know. We'll see. Jonesy says it's the back and forth that makes this so frustrating. Perception of movie, Disney, Lucasfilm disorganization. Yeah, it does feel like they're kind of teetering back and forth on. Well, we're not doing movies. Oh wait, we are doing movies. Now we're doing a movie that's based on a television series that we said we weren't going to really do a whole lot of anymore. And then my Star Wars guy says Solo 2 would have been a story of Crimson Dawn as well. I would like to see where that story is going
Yeah.
as well. That's a great point. And
Yeah.
we've gotten a lot of that content in the way of like comic books. There's been a lot of Kira's story now that's been told in the comic books, and that's still ongoing. So it almost feels like that ship has sailed. So if they were to come back and do a Solo 2, would it be an adaptation of the comic book stuff, or would we, return the focus to Solo? And then what does that story look like? I think you're, again, not far off either, in that there's not a whole lot of room to, I mean, there's story. I mean, they can crank out stories all day long, but do we really need to kind of fill in the blanks between there? And I think we got the gist of how that all started and, how they came to be. So
I also
any
wonder,
last
like,
words on this one before we move on? Yeah.
I was going to say, I just also wonder how confusing this is timeline wise for like the casual fan, right? To be jumping, okay, Ahsoka series is taking place here after the original trilogy, but before the latest trilogy. But Lando is going to be happening over here before the original trilogy, and like it just becomes super confusing for somebody who just pops in and is like, I
Right.
just want to see a Star Wars movie. What do I have to know?
Yeah, exactly. It's the meme of the Post-it notes and the strings and,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever that one was. I forget the TV series that was
Oh,
from,
like
but
Always Sunny, where it's like,
yes, Always Sunny. Yeah, it's that one. That's the meme that you're talking about here, especially when the timelines start kind of merging together. So, all right, well, let's move on from this. I don't have anything to pull up on this one, but this came up as a rumor. It was very interesting, saying that Andor season 1 was coming to 4K, ultra high definition, and steelbook in 2024, so next year. I think a question for you, just to kind of get to know you a little bit more here. Do you still do the physical media? Like, are you still out there pining for this stuff, or are you purely like digital at this point? Like, where are you at?
I'm purely digital at this point, but right now, like with everything that's going on with streaming, it's like, oh, maybe I should have kept all my DVDs in my Blu-rays instead of like
Yeah.
giving them away to whoever, and just because they were just taking up too much space on the bookshelf and whatnot. I needed more room for toys, so why would I why would I need these DVDs there? And now it's like, oh, because the promise is like if you have Disney Plus, you're going to have all of the Star Wars and all of the Marvel and all of this and that. But now it's like, actually, you know what? We're not going to make as much money keeping it here. We're going to make more money if we sell this series to Netflix and this series to Paramount and this series to whatever. And it's like, oh, but I don't want to be subscribed to 7 different things. We're just back to cable.
Exactly.
Sometimes I just want to watch a Star Wars movie. Sometimes I just want to watch Empire Strikes Back because that's my mood on a Thursday. Can I just watch that without having to figure out which of the streaming devices it's on?
Yeah. No, good point. I'm the same way. Like I've got still a lot of physical media, but I did kind of pause. I mean, I put a big pause on it, started going digital only. And at first I was thinking, okay, I feel like I'm getting burned here because even with the digital stuff, as great as it looks, as great as it sounds, there was something that we don't get all of the special edition type stuff, right? If you look at the DVDs that were coming out, there's all kinds of extra footage on there. And that's the stuff that I dig into. Like I can sit there and just put that stuff on, watch it all day long. But we don't get that with streaming, and we're probably never going to get that, especially at this point now when they're talking about pulling this stuff back, not having extensive libraries like a lot of these companies were touting originally at the beginning. Because I think they're realizing that there's a price on that. And especially with the writer strike right now, I mean, they've been getting over on them hand and foot because they're not really paying them anything extra every time I go watch that show, 15 times. So they're kind of in a pickle. I do like the idea of physical media just in general coming back. Does it mean I'm going to have to go get some more shelves from IKEA? Yeah, probably, because I'm like you. I'm out of space. I bought a bunch of damn toys now, so I don't really have any place to put them. So I'm excited. I do hope this is going to be a thing. And I think more than anything, I just want that extra special, those extra scenes and behind the scenes stuff and all that. I mean, they do a pretty good job these days of putting that stuff like on Disney Plus as extra bonus type things, like little shows sometimes, or they might do like a YouTube type behind the scenes exclusive type stuff, but it lives there. But I kind of want it all in one place. So.
Yeah. And it depends on how like they put together the streaming site too. I don't know if you're a wrestling fan, if you've ever had WWE Network. But before they moved everything to Peacock, they had everything. Like if you were a wrestling fan, it was so phenomenal because you got old WCW stuff, you got old AWA stuff.
Wow.
And when they started converting everything to Peacock, it became like, oh, we really don't have everything. And where they started cutting out a lot of stuff, and a lot of wrestling fans like, where's all the stuff I used to love? Like, I'm still paying the same amount, and sure, I get to have, I don't know what else is on Peacock, Friends or whatever, on top of having all the wrestling stuff. But like, I want all like the old shows. I want to watch Nitro from 1997, and I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point. That was kind of Disney's in that spot right now too. They touted that they were going to release their entire backlog of everything in the vaults and et cetera, and that got everybody excited. And now, well, it's not the case. So, hey, 80s kid from the 90s, he's joined us. He says it's ridiculous to pay $45 for 8 episodes on a Blu-ray. This deal keeps getting worse all the time. He's quoting Star Wars there. Thanks. Well done. Well played. Jonesy said, I can see where the bonus stuff might be Blu-ray only, not on Disney Plus. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, the plus side to this is that we'll get all that stuff back, and I feel like that's been missing in my life for a very long time, ever since I cut the cord and went to, digital only. I know that stuff's out there, and like I know people buy this stuff, and I see them posting about it and talking about it, and it's that FOMO that I'm starting to really sink in, and I just can't have that with Star Wars. Like, it's just not possible. So
I don't even know where I'd play a DVD right now. Like,
oh wait, no, I got a PS5.
Yeah, the only gaming console I have is a Switch, so that's not playing a DVD. My MacBook Air does not have a DVD player on it, and I lost the Xbox in the divorce. So like, I got nothing, man. I got nothing.
Well, yeah, step one, buy a DVD player or Blu-ray player, I guess, for you. So, all right, let's move on, and I want to talk about this one. So this is I'm going to pull this up again. Let me pull up the Living Force. Was announced by John Jackson Miller, who is, as far as I'm concerned, like publishing royalty or like writing royalty. He's got an extensive library of all kinds of books that he's written for Star Wars over the years. I love the fact that he's back here. And then this book in particular, right? This is a book that we're going to get that's going to take place about a year before the events of The Phantom Menace. I was going to read here just quickly the little intro. It says, the Jedi Order, and specifically the council that leads it, has made a lot of mistakes throughout its long history, especially in the declining days of the Old Republic. And now, a new Star Wars novel is getting to explore one of Jedi's attempts to get its members to see just that, with a road trip and a few pirates along the way. So this is going to follow... oh, hey, you know what? It might be helpful if I pull this up here. So this is going to follow Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn, as far as like the main characters that are going to be in this this book. 1 year before we get into the details of the book, like, what is your take on The Phantom Menace? Are you a prequels fan? Is this kind of your Star Wars?
I'm not the biggest prequels fan. I'm actually kind of sad. I was thinking about this yesterday after we were talking. Do you remember like 10 years ago they released The Phantom Menace on in 3D? They like 3D-fied it, Phantom Menace.
Yeah, it was right before the Disney acquisition.
Right before, Disney bought it, and I guess it didn't do well because everyone's like, ooh, Phantom Menace. And like watching it in 3D, it was like, oh, is this how it was supposed to look? Because what I always didn't like about watching the prequels is because everything looks so flat, right? Because it's on green screen. Then you
Hmm.
convert it to 3D. It's like, oh, there's life in the scene again because they're not just yelling at a flat whatever, and it looked so amazing. And I wish they continued doing the other two movies, but I guess it tanked so badly at the box office. They're like, all right, Disney, just give us money and we're out of here.
Yeah, let's go make the new movies.
Uh, I mean,
That's interesting. I had never, I did not, honestly, I never got to see the in 3D because I was like, oh yeah, I'll get around to it. Never did. Then,
yeah.
got bought out and missed that boat. But that's an interesting perspective. I had never considered that that would probably give you another, geez, I was gonna say another dimension, to the movies. But, thank you. Good night, everybody. I'll be here all week. But yeah, I can totally see that. Like it would breathe life almost literally into some of those. Cause I'm with you. Like some of those, especially Phantom Menace, I think they got better by the time we got to Clone Wars in some ways visually, and then certainly by the
Mhm.
Revenge of the Sith, I think they found their groove. But yeah, I know, and this is the going back to the book, he's done such a good job of writing books about Jedi and kind of them being on their own, whether it's Kenobi,
Mhm.
whether it's Kanan from Rebels. And this is like his first attempt to kind of tell a story, like a collective story, like of the Jedi Order themselves, talk about what was going on about a year before. And I always thought that we would get a lot of that context and really kind of understand what Luke was talking about in The Last Jedi about the hubris. I always put my money on that coming from the High Republic, which is still possible because Phase 3 is coming out. We don't know what that's
Mhm.
going to be. But it does sound like we might get some echoes of what was really happening with the Jedi Order and why they were so blinded to see somebody like Palpatine rise to power and then certainly, corrupt Anakin Skywalker and do the horrible things that he did. But, I guess for you, is this like a book that you would pick up? Or do you pick
Yeah,
up
I
any
mean,
of the novels now these days?
I feel like it would be very interesting. I feel like a lot of people love Qui-Gon Jinn as a character, right? And we only
For
really
sure,
got
for sure.
him in the one movie. And I don't know if I kind of skimmed through this, if like the Count Dooku story would be part of this as well, and his going from the Jedi to the dark side would be part of this story as well. But I think those are two characters that I think most Star Wars fans would love to explore. And just the mythos, like what was going on before it, like you said, like how they were blinded, what they were doing, what they were busy doing, just sitting in those chairs in those the little council.
Hmm. Yeah, the little rotating chairs that they had.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. There are some blanks that need to be filled in here. We got some from Tales of the Jedi, the animated series, of course, the Dooku book. We got some background from him there, but it's still we are still missing some pieces. So I don't know. I'm pretty excited about this. I love his writing style. He's done such a great job with Star Wars novels in the past. It's been forever. It feels like I think it's only been like 6 or 7 years since he's written anything, but that's a lifetime in Star Wars, and I'm excited to have him back. I would love to. I'm going to get my hands on this book as soon as it comes out, and I'm sure Lauren's going to get on it, and she's going to do a whole breakdown of it. But anything prequels these days is, I mean, it's like we're in the golden age, right? It's everybody's in love with it, and of course, we had the Ahsoka series with Anakin coming back in his Clone Wars, armor. So it's just like we're living this like renaissance of
Yeah.
the prequels, which in a lot of ways is actually good and healthy for Star Wars going forward.
Yeah, I don't know, like, what was the catalyst to this love affair with the prequels. I don't know if it was just people realized, the Clone Wars cartoon was just so good that they're like, they wanna go back to that era, because I always felt like the movies were a bit rushed in what they were like. They knew we had to tell certain stories, so you just gotta throw it out there. The Clone Wars and novels like this kinda help us explore that kinda area and let us know, like, what was going on, tell us the stories we actually wanted to hear.
Yeah. And a lot of it is honestly kids grew up, right? The
Yeah,
same people that
yeah,
watched these and fell in love with it, and this was their Star Wars. They're now in their 30s and having their own children, and it's kind of cyclical in that way. Same thing happened with us, just 20
yeah.
years ago when we finally got of age with the original. Well, not us, sorry, me when I came of age with the original trilogy. Which let's just be honest, it's always going to be the golden child, but. Okay, let's move on and talk about this. This is pretty exciting stuff. I mean, look at this artwork. So this is coming out from Marvel Comics, and we're actually going to get in another story of Ronin's of like origin. So this is going back to the writer is Takashi Ohazaki. He's written a new tale for Marvel series based on the Disney Plus animated anthologies. For anybody that didn't watch Star Wars Visions Volume 1, you're sorely missing out. There's some great stories in there, specifically the Ronin, right? This is going to be a continuation of this. and releasing, I think, what was it? When was this one coming out? January of 2024 is when so we're going to get that origin story of them. The cover and the artwork looks freaking amazing.
Oh, cool.
And,
Yeah.
and when this came out, we talked about this was something we really would want to see. Like Visions felt like it was ripe for going back and giving us like manga or giving us just comic books, right? We didn't necessarily need a movie. They didn't have to make anything real life, but there's a deep well of stuff that they could pull from all of those stories in comic book form, trade back, whatever, trade paperback, whatever it is. But maybe if this thing does well, maybe this is the first of many to come. But I guess what was your take with the Vision story? And what's your how are you? Do you collect comics these days? Is this something that you would pick up later down the road here?
I mean, I usually have the what's it called, the Marvel Unlimited pass, so I just
Yes.
kind of go through it that way and just catch up
Mhm.
that way. I didn't even know this was a thing. Like you sent me the link, I was like, what the hell is this? It's like, oh, cool. It's like it's samurai Star Wars, which is kind of kind of brings it back to the beginning, right? Because of the whole when George Lucas was writing about it, he was writing almost like a cowboy space opera samurai
Akira
story, and this is
Kurosawa. Yep.
yeah, and this is it. And it was like super cool. And this also got me thinking, is this how Star Wars starts a multiverse? Because this isn't canon, but it could be. And they just have to bring everything together with space whales, and it's going to be no. We have a multiverse of Star Wars. That's the next trilogy.
No. Okay. Whoa. Time out. You're gonna start. Look at it. We're losing people. They're just dropping off like flies now. shredding viewers.
Like, no, we do not want a multiverse. There's too
We
many
don't.
multiverses.
Too many multiverses. No, I mean, this is like the Legends playground, right? And I think that's probably all it'll ever amount to because some of it is, is steeped in, I guess, what I would call canon, but definitely when you watch this, there's certain things that they're doing that we've never seen before. They're taking some really artistic, creative liberties with, the storytelling and how things work in Star Wars. They're almost redefining it at times, especially when you get to Visions 2, the second volume of that. There's some really great stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's fantastic stuff, and Jonesy and I covered all of those. But it does feel like it's Star Wars, but just too far removed from the core and what we perceive to be canon. But
Mhm.
man, is it a lot of fun! Holy crap, is it full of adrenaline and colors and flashy stuff, and that Hell Samurai ninja feel is just kind of prevalent throughout all of season one. And then we get some really deep and more locally based stories from all around the U.S. or all around the world, honestly, in volume 2. So, but yeah, I'm excited about this. Like, this is definitely a comic. I know Jonesy's a big comic book fan. He was already kind of talking about. He said I might actually be more interested in the Peach Momoko's Visions one shot coming out in November. Still, this should be visually striking and an interesting backstory. I think it was the one thing that when this story came out, we really kind of wanted to know, like, the backstory. How did they even get to where they were? And luckily, we got the follow up, right? So in the book Ronin, which I was going to reach back there and get it, the book Ronin kind of picks up after the end of the series, and that's a great book. Holy bananas! That writer is so freaking smart and intelligent in the way she wrote that, and it's awesome. It's a really good book. But we still were missing this one piece, which is like, how did we even get here? Like it
Yeah.
was just there were so many things that were thrown at you in that cartoon that it left you wondering, like, wow, like there's a whole world, a whole universe here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that struck me the most about watching like the Ronin short was just like you could tell somebody who loves Star Wars put this together. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like you watch a lot of stuff and it's like it feels like there was a studio telling you what to do and this and that, and like we're getting studio notes and here we go. But the short just like, no, I love Star Wars, I love samurais. Let's do a mashup together, and it just like, oh yeah, no, this works. This works on so many levels. I
It
love it.
does. It really does. Yeah. And I'm anticipating that the comics is just going to be more of the same. This is some of the interior art here that you can see, not colored or anything, but actually that's just the cover. Sorry. That's the cover without all of the coloring. So what is this? We said January 2024. I don't know. This is a one shot. I think that would be the only downside to this is we're only going to get a one issue. Maybe it's in, a double size issue. I hope it's at least a double size issue because I can't see them cramming in an origin story into, 24 pages or whatever. But
I
yeah.
just feel like when they say one shot, it's like this is a one shot unless it does really well. Then
And then
we'll
it's a
make
two
more.
shot. And then it'll be a three shot. Will keep adding on until it dies down. All right, and let's move on to I think the last thing we got, which is collecting. Look at that guy. Wow. Okay, so Lego announced here this week that they are releasing the Venator class cruiser. This is coming in I think it releases October 1st. It weighs in at 5,374 pieces. I'm going to get into all of where that kind of ranks with all of the other sets that have been released, some of these bigger sets in the past, but again, back to you. Like I know it sounds like you've got limited space. So I'm guessing you're not a big collector of these huge sets, or do you have like a third house somewhere where you're just
No,
housing
I
these
don't. I don't.
suckers?
My buddy Damon was collecting these before he had his children. I think his children have destroyed most of them by now. But we used to just drink some beers and just put Star Wars ships together. We'd put the Millennium Falcon together. We put a Star Destroyer together, a couple other things together. I think an X-wing together. And yeah, they're just awesome to build. I always just wonder, like, because it seems like every time they do like a new version of a set, they're like, it's going to be even bigger. It's going to be a even bigger Death Star. And it's like, well, I want it to scale. I just want all these. I want my X-wing fighter to match scale wise to my Millennium Falcon to match scale wise with my Star Destroyer. And this thing looks really cool, by the way.
Yeah, you're going to need a bigger boat if you want them to scale, honestly, because these things are not to
look
scale.
at the table.
I like this too. It's always funny. You watch like the pictures they have of these people. They're like these, single, like no kids, $500 million dollars a year income people living in these big houses with all the room in the world to house these things. Like that's my problem. Like here's the picture I was talking about. Like who lives like that, right? But I don't have room for this thing. Number one, I have the land speeder back here that's died a horrible death. I never even got the engines put on it. And I'm working on the Ghost, and that's about as big as I can get. I can't see doing something that's 5,000, especially this sucker. It's so long. What was the length on this guy? I think they said it was. Let me scroll back up here. I mean, look at the detail though. They did a really good job on this sucker.
Yeah. I'm like scrolling through looking for just numbers. Like, no, that's just the product code. Never mind.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So 20. You guys, what do you guys do up there in Canada? You guys on the metric
centimeters
system?
Metric, yeah.
All right.
But we understand inches because like all our media comes from you guys. So
good. Okay, good. Let's see. So measuring over 12 and a half inches high, 43 inches long, and 21 inches wide. So yeah, it's not going to fit anywhere in my house ever. It's massive. Yeah. But so where this, and they did a great job.
What do you need a dining room table for anyway? Just to have it as a centerpiece.
I mean, he's just burning this entire table right here, this really expensive, $5,000 table just to house the cruiser here. So this is 5,374 pieces. So the biggest set that's ever been released so far, Star Wars wise, is the Millennium Falcon in 2017. That tipped in at 7,541. That's the $700, $800 price one that came out a few years back, right? Then they had the AT-AT or AT-AT, excuse me, children, sorry. That came in at 6,785 pieces. The Razor Crest, which was surprising, I didn't even realize this was as big as it is, was 6,187. The 2007 Millennium Falcon was 5,197. So it's just above the 2007 Millennium Falcon, but below the Razor Crest in terms of total number of pieces. And just for the sake of filling out the top 5 here, the Star Destroyer was 4,784. I always thought the Death Star was like the biggest one, and it's only 4,000 pieces. Like that feels like a lifetime ago now, but I always think, I always thought, oh, that's got to be like 10,000 at least, right?
Are they just bigger pieces? So it's just it's a bigger physically, but like they're just the Millennium Falcon just has more intricate stuff to put together.
I don't know. We've got some. I know we have some of our supporters and our followers are huge Lego fan, and they could probably explain this more than I could. I don't know. Do they count like a single little divot, or I know there's even a name for that, and I always screw that up too. But I don't know if they count that as a single piece, or is it like, is there a certain size before it's counted as a piece? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but yeah, it's a lot of pieces, and it feels like this would take several days, if not weeks, to actually put together.
I'm just looking at the Razor Crest one because I didn't even know I didn't know what it looked like on the Lego version, and like it's bigger than this guy's head. In the when I Google image searched it, it's like, oh yeah, okay, I guess the Razor Crest does belong in the most
echelons.
Yeah. I just assumed it was like it's a smaller thing, but yeah, when you think about it in the series, no, there's like 2 floors on the ship when he's going through. So
yeah, it's a pretty big set. I'm just gonna go buy it. If I buy this, I will buy this turtleneck because I can't see myself putting this together without the turtleneck. Yeah. So I take it you're not a big Lego collector right now.
No, no. I was doing the action figures for a while, not whatever the Star Wars version of Marvel Legends, like the 6-inch kind of thing. I've got like a
Oh yeah.
Han Solo. I got him doing
Mhm.
like the James Bond pose where he's like pointing at
Oh
the camera like
yeah. Yeah.
that. What do I have? I've got R2D2 trash can that's like the size of R2D2. He's huge. And I got like a C3PO painting somewhere in my
Yeah,
apartment.
which is funny. You brought out like we got on a call a couple days ago, if not last week or whatever it was, to kind of just say hi. And like you pulled out this trash can out of nowhere. This thing's massive. He's like holding
Yeah,
it in
it's like
front of the
the
camera. He's like,
size.
"Look at this thing!"
Yeah.
Pulls it open, and yeah, it was pretty rad. I actually never seen anything like that. I would never put trash in that, but
No, it's
yeah.
my cat's toys are in there. Nothing
What was
else.
the price on this? Somebody said so. Who was it? Somebody in the chat said, "Jeepers, that's expensive." I don't know that I saw the price on that. Maybe it's probably posted somewhere else. It's not in the It's not in the Star Wars. Oh, he might have been talking about the Millennium Falcon. I would imagine this thing's going to tip in at about $500, $600 easily, given
Yeah,
where some of
probably.
these other ones have landed in the past.
I mean, Legos are not cheap, man. That's like the other thing. Like I'd love to have more Legos around, but it's like I feel like my cat would knock it off a shelf, one, and I have to
Yes.
build it again. But that's the fun, right? That's the fun, putting it back together.
No.
And two, they're just super expensive. Like what that guy's apartment, that's the apartment you need to afford to have an attack cruiser. That's the reality of the situation.
It really is. Yeah. And you're right. Like they're getting pretty expensive. And there's no fun in rebuilding Lego. Let's just all be honest with ourselves. Like half the fun is the fact that they've already pre-put these in bags for you. But once
Mhm.
you take them apart and you go try to reassemble, it's a nightmare. Like you're just so blind. It's like trying to put Lego together with like one hand tied behind your back. It's just not really gonna make it. Jonesy's chiming in said $650 is probably where this thing's gonna chime in or tip in at. So
I
yeah.
mean, we came from an era where there were no Star Wars Legos. We had to like
Mm-hmm.
take the Lego space and kind of like make it into
Right.
like whatever. Like I there was like one Lego thing, the wings. I noticed the wings split like this. I'm like, oh my God, I can make an X-wing fighter, and I would just make an X-wing fighter out of like just because the wings could split. I'm like, okay, cool. And you're just always trying to build like I'm gonna make this a Y-wing, and I'm gonna make this a whatever. Just
Yeah,
have
those
the
are the
Lego space.
days. There was a lot of imagination being used in the 80s, honestly, across
Yeah.
all forms of media, especially, like you said, Lego, Atari, like video games at the time. Graphics weren't as good. You just kind of had to, make it up and do your best. So, all right. Well, I know there's a lot of people that follow Lego and are huge Lego Star Wars fans. In fact, I know we've got someone with us tonight live, and this seems like it's something that's going to sell a lot of. And again, going back to what we said just a while ago, right? Everything about the Clone Wars and that era with the prequel trilogy, we're just kind of in this Renaissance period, and so this is something that I feel like is going to sell a crap ton once it comes out. It's a beautiful ship. We'll just see how many people actually have the room for it, or are they knocking down walls to expand on their house just so they can house this thing. So
Yeah. $650 in this economy? I don't know, man.
what is that in Canadian dollars?
That'll probably be like $800, $900.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is that a lot? I have no
That's
idea.
yeah, I feel like that's a lot.
I'm kidding. It's a lot no matter what no matter what currency it is. If it's 650 US, it's going to be a lot just about everywhere else. So I totally get it. All
Yeah.
right. Well, hey, that's all we had, honestly. So Ed, thanks for being here, man. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad you could make it. Yeah. Do you want to kind of let folks know where the heck they can find you?
Yeah, appreciate the invite. Sam, thank you so much. This is tons of fun. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ed Garcia, spelled phonetically there. And yeah, power97.com. I do the afternoon show every weekday. Me and Nicole talk about nonsense between rock songs. It's basically play Foo Fighters, say something snarky about current events, then play Nirvana.
I saw you and I think it's your social media description says something about they pay me to push buttons or something like that. So
They pay me to talk and push buttons. That's
yeah,
really my job. That's all.
that's a
all
great job. Like that's a
pretty
great
good.
gig if you can find it. So
It's
yeah,
pretty good.
And kudos on your your phonetic spelling too, Ed Garcia, which is
Yeah.
just
A lot
brilliant.
of people
So
think my name's Edgar. I'm like, no, man, it's Ed Garcia, but it's like, you know what? Never mind. Just
yeah,
type it. Whatever. It's fine.
yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Cool. All right. Before we get out of here, I just want to say thank you again to everybody in the live chat. I honestly wasn't taking down names, so my apologies there, but I do appreciate everyone that came out for the live feed. And again, don't forget, just after this, Jonesy and I will be back. We're going to be talking about the hero's journey and specifically Ahsoka. So we'll be kind of overlaying those two and really stepping into that and then kind of start trying to speculate on where we potentially think the series could go based on the hero's journey and some of the acts that are still to follow. So if you guys are interested in that, you can head out to cantinacast.com/Patreon for that. And before I get out of here, I'll give you the last word. You got anything else before we bust out?
Watch more Star Wars.
Okay. Ed said so. Edgar said so. All right. We'll see you guys here in just a few minutes.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.